Welcome to the Talking Book Voices, the podcast, where we explore the wonders of the Texas Talking Book program. Join us in making literature accessible to all. This program, a division of the Texas State Library and Archives Commission, provides a free library service to Texans of all ages with a qualifying visual, physical, or reading disability. In each episode, we'll uncover its history, share stories, get updates, and tips to maximize this invaluable program. So whether you love reading, seeking accessible materials, or just curious about the program, this podcast is for you. Visit www.texastalkingbooks.org for more info. So let's begin the Talking Book Voices, a podcast by the Texas State Library and Archives Commission.
Did you know the Talking Book program has a summer reading program? Well, we do. There are activities and prizes for both youth and adults. For more information, call us at 1-800-252-9605. Hello, my name is Laura Jean Norris, and I'm one of the Reader's Advisory Librarians with the Talking Book program. Today we have a special treat. We have Michele Chan Santos, the new Center for the Book Coordinator at the Texas State Library and Archives Commission. She's here to talk about the Center for the Book and the Texas Great Reads Selection. Hi, Michele, and welcome to TBP Voice Podcast. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks for having me on the podcast, Laura Jean. I'm delighted to join you today. I'm the new coordinator for the Texas Center for the Book. I joined TSLAC in March, so I've only been on board for a couple of months, but everyone has been so kind and welcoming. Previously to this position, I worked for the Texas Library Association for 4.5 years, and I've also worked as a medical writer. I'm a journalist by profession, and I recently learned that several of the other Center for the Book coordinators in other states are also former journalists.
Oh, I can totally see that. Journalists as well as librarians are advocates for literacy. Well, we are so delighted to have you as part of the TSLAC team. But before we dive into the 2024 selections of the Texas Great Reads, can you tell me a little bit about what the Center for the Book is and what it does?
Sure. The Texas Center for the Book is one of 50 state centers affiliated with the Center for the Book at the Library of Congress. Each center celebrates the written word and literary heritage of their state. Our programs promote the importance of books, reading, literacy, and libraries.
Well, what was it about this organization that inspired you to take up the helm?
So one of the neatest programs the Center for the Book oversees is Letters About Literature, a reading and writing competition where 4th through 12th graders write a letter to an author explaining how a book influenced them or changed their lives. We'll be opening that competition up again in the fall. The awards ceremony for Letters About Literature takes place at the Texas Library Association Annual Conference, and it's always been one of my favorite events to attend. When I saw that this position was open, I was really excited to oversee this program and the other programs of the Center for the Book.
Oh, that is so cool. So tell us about another Center for the Book program, the Great Read, what it is and why is it important?
Sure. The Library of Congress has announced Great Reads every year since 2002. Across the country, the Great Reads in each state are tied to each state's literary heritage. So it might be an author from that state or set in that state. It's important because every place is so unique, and celebrating these Great Reads are a way of celebrating and honoring each state. I recommend checking out the full list of Great Reads from across the country. There are a lot of titles that are fascinating.
Oh, I'm going to have to check out the titles from my birth state, Delaware. But what are the picks in Texas for the Great Read?
So we chose The Which Way Tree by Elizabeth Crook for our adult readers, and Mystery of the Monarchs by Barb Rosenstock for younger readers. The Which Way Tree is by an Austin author, Elizabeth Crook. It's set in the 1860s in Texas, and it has a wonderful epic feel. The Mystery of the Monarchs by the celebrated children's author Barb Rosenstock is about the search for the wintering location of monarch butterflies, the state insect of Texas.
Well, those are wonderful selections. We have the Which Way Tree available for our patrons right now in audio, In fact, they can order it through the mail or download it immediately using our BARD service. And NLS is working on recording Mystery of the Monarchs. But while they're waiting, we have several other award-winning books written by Barb Rosenstock in our collection. Both books are available to all Texans in ebook format through eRead Texas via the Simply E app. So can you tell us a little bit about what goes into choosing the books for the Great Texas Read? And what was it about these two books that really stood out?
The setting for The Which Way Tree is a hill country in the 1800s. And just a little bit about the plot. It's about a girl and her half-brother who are tracking a panther, a mountain lion, they called it panthers back then, that killed her mother. It's very much a high-adventure story similar to True Grit. We loved how the Texas setting is such a huge part of the story. The rivers, the wildlife. Actually, I'd like to invite everyone listening to join us on June 11 at 2 p.m. for a webinar where we'll broadcast an interview with Elizabeth Crook about the Which Way Tree. And she'll also be on the webinar to answer questions in a live chat. You can register for the webinar at the Texas Center for the Book Great Read page. As for the Mystery of the Monarchs, we loved how students from Canada, the U.S., and Mexico all played a role in discovering where the butterflies go every winter. I worked with State Librarian Gloria Meraz and Assistant State Librarian Tim Gleisner in selecting these books. And in July, we'll have a webinar where we'll air the interview I did with author Barb Rosenstock and illustrator Erica Meza. And we'll have registration up pretty soon on the Center for the Book page.
You mentioned that each state has its own Center for the Book, correct? So you'll get to represent Texas at the annual Library of Congress National Book Festival to promote Texas's literary heritage. When is that? And can you give us a rough idea about what promoting Texas literary heritage entails?
Sure. The National Book Festival is August 24 in Washington, D.C. There is a giant Roadmap to Reading event with booths representing all 50 states as well as U.S. territories. Thousands of school children and adults come to this event to learn more about the great reads and to have their passport maps stamped. There are also authors, poets, and illustrators from all over the United States presenting different panels about their books.
That sounds so fun. I'll bet you have a blast at the National Book Festival. What amazing things can we expect to see from the Texas Center for the Book in the future?
We are starting a quarterly author event this summer. Stay tuned for more details. These events will feature author panels and take place here at TSLAC. I'm also launching a Texas Center for the Book blog, which will feature articles about Texas librarians and libraries. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm excited to get Letters About Literature open and running this fall. And for next spring, we'll have a Lone Star DIA grants available for libraries.
Well, I know we're all excited to participate in those programs. Michele, I want to thank you again for taking the time to meet with us today to tell us about yourself and the Center for the Book.
Thank you for having me.